You're Human and You. Written by Mad Max the Black. Chapter 22. And Into the Fire / The Relationship of Pawn and King. Part 2. Come now, Tia. You should really try and enjoy yourself more, Discord said nonchalantly. This might be the last thing you do for a while. Celestia ignored him, choosing instead to study the board intently. She had pushed hard in the beginning, probably more than she should have, now that she thought about it, but nonetheless it had allowed her to get some of Discord's pieces quickly. True to his nature, Discord was sneaking his pieces behind her defenses, worming and weaseling his pieces in between hers, picking them off one by one. So far, the pair was evenly matched, each with a fair number of the other's pieces captured. Celestia picked up a rook, which was shaped like an earth pony holding a battle axe in his mouth, and contemplated where she was going to put him. She had been lucky and had managed to capture Discord's queen right off the bat, but now his knights and bishops were causing her a great deal of strife. Any attempt to capture them was met with her losing another one of her own pieces in return. Chewing on her lip, Celestia slowly moved the rook back, preparing to protect her king from Discord's approaching knight. Releasing her magic, she finished her turn. Discord raised an eyebrow, an amused expression on his face. Ignoring his knight, which was currently in a prime spot to push an attack on Celestia's defenses, he reached down and picked up a pawn, scooting it forward a square.
Why would he move that one? That one doesn't help him at all.
Celestia grunted, furrowing her brow as she tried to figure out Discord's strategy. The black pawn was nowhere near any of her pieces, so she decided to leave it alone for now. You know, Discord quipped as he started to claw, I thought you'd be more talkative, Tia. You know, trying to get me to spill the beans and tell you my plan. Not that I don't appreciate you shutting your trap for once, but I wasn't really expecting the cold shoulder. As he talked, he brushed off the snow that was accumulating on his shoulder. The frozen substance fell to the floor, melting instantly as it came in contact with the surface, heated by the fire.
You aren't going to tell me anything you don't want me to know,
Lister replied, running an eye over the board to see if there was any weaknesses in her defense that she had overlooked.
So why would I bother trying when it won't work anyway?
She slid her knight forward, claiming another one of Discord's pieces, a pawn that stood beside one of his rooks. Celestia picked up the captured piece with her magic and studied it. It was an armored earth pony crouched behind a large shield. Sighing softly, she placed it down next to Discord's other captured pieces. Spoken like someone who has the situation under control. Discord chuckled, studying the board with a bored expression. He nudged the bishop forward, encroaching on Celestia's side of the board.
I am in control of the situation,
Celestia snarled suddenly, her temper flaring. Picking up her knight, she used it to capture the offending bishop. All the pieces jumped slightly as she slammed her piece onto the board. So is the fly, before it encounters the spider's web. Discord snarked, pushing his pawn farther along the board. It was nearing Celestia's side, but it still wasn't near any of her pieces. Celestia felt her anger grow at Discord's comment. She ground her teeth before exhaling heavily. The Draconicus infuriated her so much. There were only a few times in her life that she had ever truly lost her temper, and more than half of them were because of the Draconicus. Discord opened his mouth to say something else, but the glare she shot at him shut him up. As she leaned over the board, she heard him mutter under his breath, Well, aren't you a ray of sunshine? Celestia's left eye twitched as she tried to ignore him. Grabbing her queen, she moved it forward, now intending to finish the game as quickly as possible. Consequences be damned. Max.
Please?
Sweetie Belle whimpered, her ears splayed back in terror against her head.
Please, don't let go. Please don't.
She held onto my arm with all of her might, desperately clinging to her only lifeline. I could feel her heart thumping against my arm, fighting to burst out of her chest. I won't, I thought, well aware of the fact that she couldn't hear me. It was more for myself, as I tried to ignore the voice in the back of my head, still telling me to ditch the fillies and save myself. My breathing was ragged and labored. My lungs and sides were burning. The bottoms of my feet were completely scratched up from the sharp rocks and roots I had been stumbling over. I must have taken a wrong turn somewhere, because I should have reached the edge of the forest by now. Shaking the hair out of my eye, I tried to keep my vision as clear as possible. Sweat drenched my face, causing my long hair to stick to my forehead. I was exhausted, and would have liked nothing better than to lie down and rest, but the three monstrous beasts behind me tore that dream to shreds. The manticores roared, frustrated that their prey had eluded them for so long. If my hands weren't currently full of a scared filly, I would have shot them all to double birds. Instead, I just lowered my head and tried to sneak it out a couple of feet ahead of them. Chancing a quick glance behind me, I instantly regretted it. The large felines were closing to the little distance I had gained, quickly. It was almost like they were toying with me, enjoying the thrill of the chase before consuming their meal. This is why I'm not a cat person. Unfortunately, with my gaze directed behind me, I failed to see the large root protruding in the middle of the pathway. My foot caught it perfectly, causing me to stumble heavily, almost dropping the fillies in the process. All three of them screamed as they tightened their grips on my arms. Spike dug his claws deeper into my skin, holding on for dear life. I struggled hard not to faceplant in the dirt, my feet flailing around beneath me. I had just managed to regain my footing when I felt intense, searing pain flare up in my shoulder. Looking back, I saw that one of the manticores had jammed its scorpion stinger into the shoulder blade, the barb stuck deep in the flesh. Princess Celestia. Discord went suddenly, rubbing his left shoulder while grimacing in pain. Celestia gave him a look of faux concern.
What's the matter, Discord?
She asked as she returned her gaze to the board. The game was slowly beginning to wind down, and looked to be in Celestia's favor. She had captured almost all of Discord's pieces, essentially trapping his king in one corner of the board, all alone with no defense. She smiled as she moved her knight closer.
A few more moves, then the game is over.
Leaning back, she tried to repress her urge to smirk at the Draconequus. Nothing that concerns you, Tia dear? He said, still rubbing his shoulder. His eyes drifted across the board, dominated mostly by the remaining white pieces. Lifting his tail, he used it to push the random pawn on the board forward. It was now 2 squares from Celestia's end of the board. Normally, this would be a cause for alarm, but it was a little too late for that. Even if he got the pawn in the end row and got a piece back, no piece could help him, not even his queen. The game was over. Celestia was sure of it.
You're awfully quiet, Discord,
she chirped as she moved her knight closer to his king.
What happened to all that spunk you had earlier?
It seemed to be bothering you, Tia. He shrugged before moving the pawn forward another square. It was now 1 square away from the end row.
Too little, too late, Discord,
Celestia thought, moving her knight forward again.
Check,
she said with a smirk. Discord lay down and moved his king over 1 square, exactly where Celestia had been hoping he'd move. A huge grin spread across her face as she lunged forward and slid her bishop forward.
Checkmate, Discord,
she cheered, standing up. Discord just sat there, staring at the board with an expression on his face that Celestia couldn't quite place. Fear slowly began to rise up from her chest, her eyes narrowing.
He isn't thinking of breaking our deal, is he?
She had just opened her mouth to remind him of his promise, while slowly calling upon her vast reserve of magic, when she caught sight of Discord's wings. The tips were slowly turning into stone. That held true for the rest of his body as well. Stone was slowly creeping over his frame, encasing the Draconequus in a gray prison. Celestia jumped back with a yelp.
What's going on? I haven't even cast a spell yet.
A slight shimmer caught her attention as she glanced down at the chessboard. It was glowing softly, tendrils of magic floating from the marble and slowly entwining Discord. Celestia's eyes widened as she realized what it was.
You stuck a cursed board on me? What were you thinking?
She shrieked, her wings flaring. She gaped at Discord in horror. While not uncommon and back in the Dark Ages, cursed items were all but unheard of in modern times. The fact that she had been blind enough to actually play with one almost made her sick. This was a magic that you didn't mess with. Oh, my dear, sweet Tia, Discord said, smiling as he sat there, slowly being encased in stone. How else did you think I was going to make sure we both kept our end of the bargain? You can be quite a little trickster yourself when you want to be. The stone was slowly making his way up his body by now. Only the top half of him remained untouched, but even that amount was shrinking. A little bit of sporty advice before I go, Discord said, clapping his paws together. He looked awfully calm for someone who was about to become nothing more than a statue. Leaning forward, he pushed the pawn forward, placing it at the end of the row. As he let go of it, the piece began to morph and change, twisting as though it was made of liquid glass. Celestia tore her gaze away from the mesmerizing sight and looked towards Discord. Her eyes met his, and a large smile soon adorned his face. Sometimes, in our pursuit of gods and kings, we overlook the little things. The stone was now up to his arms, folding against his chest. They were soon immobile as his limbs were embraced by stone. You'll notice in this game of chess, one piece cannot win without the rest. His neck was now completely in stone, and the line was now slowly creeping up to his face. Still, the Draconicus just smiled, a cold light in his eyes. But even when you're sure that the king is gone, you'll find that there will still be a little pawn. And with that, Discord's face froze completely. A triumphant grin plastered on his face. His entire body was now encased in stone. Celestia just stood there, staring at the grinning statue, not even daring to breathe. That was too easy. She pushed a small amount of magic through her horn, casting a sensor spell on the stone Draconicus. The statue glowed white for a second before returning back to normal. She blinked in surprise. The spell had confirmed it. Discord was indeed trapped in stone.
I guess that's that then,
She thought hesitantly. Approaching the board, she turned her attention to the pawn piece. It had morphed into a completely different figure during Discord's little stunt. Now instead of a pony, a small human stood at the end of the board. It was positioned with its back to Celestia, a sword held in its miniature hand. It was looking back over its left shoulder, staring at something behind it. Reaching down, she tentatively picked up the piece with a huff. She studied the miniature for a few seconds before tucking the piece underneath her wing. Knowing the wards she had placed around the room, she cast one last glance at the now petrified mad god before trotting to the door and opening it. As she exited, all 4 battle mages tensed up ready for action. She just smiled at them as the door closed behind her.
Any trouble, ma'am?
Major Ebony asked, glancing at the closed door. Celestia shook her head, still smiling.
Nothing I couldn't handle,
she said as she began to make her way down the hall.
Please inform my sister that I am finished talking with Discord now. She can handle the rest. Right away, ma'am,
the major said, saluting. She hesitated slightly before clearing her throat.
If I may be so bold as to ask, what are you gonna do now, ma'am?
Celestia glanced over her shoulder at the battle mages, still walking down the hallway.
I have some major business to take care of in Ponyville, Major.
Max. My left shoulder felt like it was on fire, and I was pretty sure that part of the manticore's barb had broken off and become lodged in my back. My leg throbbed and my breath came in short gasps. Yet despite all of that, I continued to run. The 3 manticores were still close behind me, but they've yet to actually catch me. I wasn't completely sure how I had managed to evade them for so long, but whatever luck I had left in me, I hoped it would last just a little while longer. Although the venom currently coursing through my system probably would take care of that soon. Any thoughts to add to this? I asked the voice in the back of my head. It had been quite a while now, with no new ideas came from it. I gave up. Jumping over another fallen log, I heard all 3 fillies give a cheer of joy. I looked up, trying to see what had caught their attention. That's when I saw it too. Sunlight was streaming through the trees in the distance. We had reached the edge of the bloody forest. Gritting my teeth, I put on an extra burst of speed, pouring everything I had to get us out of that godforsaken place. Spike shouted words of encouragement in my ear as the fillies continued to cheer. Behind us, I heard the manticores roar, redoubling their effort to catch us. I was 50 feet from the edge of the forest. Behind me, the sound of crashing wood heralded the approach of death. 30 feet from freedom, I could feel their breath on my back. A paw flew over my head, missing me by inches. Spike screamed and a manticore roared. 10 feet from the escaping forest, I felt something connect with my lower back. Pain erupted across it as warm liquid began to flow down my skin. I pushed aside any pain and concentrated on closing the last few feet. With one last push, I burst out of the forest and into the sunlight. I felt the strength leave my legs and my momentum carried me another couple of meters before I collapsed, twisting myself in midair as I plummeted onto earth. I landed on my back, knocking the wind out of me. I could feel the fillies still clinging to my chest, the bodies shivering horribly. Lifting my head up, I looked around quickly for any signs of the manticores. As my vision began to blur, I saw them pacing back and forth from the tree line. It appeared they were reluctant to leave the forest. I let my head drop, sighing in relief. My grip on the fillies loosened, and I felt them scramble off of me. They were saying something, screaming it really, but I couldn't make out what was being said. I heard a female voice in the distance shout something, alarm in her voice, quickly followed by the sound of pounding hooves approaching fast. The last thing I saw before I passed out was a blur of yellow and pink shooting down at me as gentle hooves lifted up my tired body. Discord being physically connected to our boy feels a little interesting. Of course, there was always a connection with the dreams, the like you see me type stuff, but I wonder if that means he also felt everything that happened in the arena, and so he was just getting torn up and his eye ripped out, and he was just like, well, shit, that hurts. What is that human doing down there? What is he doing as he's getting ripped apart in the arena? But jokes aside, this has been a great part of the chapter so far, and I hope you guys agree. Also, who agree are my wonderful Patreons. Thank you, my wonderful patrons, my tier 1s, Angel Boof, CH, Dreamless Portal, Hyperlink 9 Game, Lost Nebula, Micah McDonald, Redeemer of Dark, HKH4, Jason, Lord High, Macario, Pony Entertainment, and Julius Costa Pierres. My tier 2s, Captain Blueshadow, 200 Trooper, Andrew Ingram, Keragnis, Cloud Zaza, Danish Dash, Jay the Firewolf, DJMX 2000, Elemental Wolf, Solus Eclipse, User 1842, Weewoo, David M. Coleman, Dioxetine, Mackenzie, McColas, G-Man 121 Garza, H1 Wolf King, Can Panzer, Mr. Crazy Deacon, Nobody, Nocturne, Papa, Rocky 2522, Sticks, Potato 20, Saint Gok, Rihanna Dragonwolf, Sword Brother Mordred, and Volio Cod. A big thank you to my previous Titan tiers, Dark Guardian, Danish Dash, Maverick, and User 1842. A big thank you to my current ones, Abyss Eclipse, and Silent Titan. I appreciate the support so much, and it means a ton to me. That aside, however, this has been Firehearth. Have a wonderful day. I just realized in my outro that I put user 1842 in my tier 2 as well. I'll have to fix that for the next upload.